I'm saying this is 31st. It was just the first. Woo. I said, well,
Incredible.
you know what? It's cool because during that time, I got a lot of feedback from the last webinar, and a lot of people had missed it, especially from overseas.
Yeah, yeah.
So, during that first part, I said, you know what? I talked to wifey, and she said, go ahead and do it, because she's not well, and I'm focusing most of my time and everything with her.
Hmm.
So, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. It's actually for you to be repositioned and recommissioned
Hmm.
someplace else because that's where
Hmm.
you're mostly needed. I felt I was mostly needed here, which is why I was recommissioned back to the United States from the West Indies, for instance,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is why you were recommissioned and were told to take up the gauntlet and get into the media because
Hmm.
of what you had to accomplish.
Hmm.
I've been
Hmm.
threatened. My life has been threatened numerous times for what I did, especially when I exposed the AIDS hoax.
Mm.
That was, that they came after me with the feds. They came after me with even my own people came after me, and it was like, should I be worried now? Because my family, when your family is saying to you, "Oh, Dad, I'm worried about you," and so forth, then you start getting a little bit more cautious, and
Right.
you start saying, "Okay, well, where my priorities lie." Well, I told my children, and I told my wife, and my wives at the time, that um, I'm not going to pull back the momentum of my mission because this shell was threatened. A lot of what I've done has been placed on tapes and on discs, on cassettes. That's how far back I go. And everything that I've said resonates towards upliftment. A lot of
Hmm.
people may not see it or may not feel it at the time, but everything I have attempted to do from my heart was to uplift. So
Hmm.
if I am going to be taken out by me doing what I enjoy and what I feel to be a righteous mission, then only a coward would even step into this. That's why I was telling a lot of the brothers and sisters back in the day when they wanted to take this particular platform and start playing like it's some kind of game to be a money making scheme when you want to debate this and debate that and you're having rivals against so and so, and it was turning the platform hostile against the very people that we wanted to actually benefit from it.
Right.
So, I said to everybody, I said, listen, this is a self destructive way of taking something that the ancestors handed down to us and our elders handed down to us, and you are polluting it. You are undermining it, just like they undermined hip hop. And they started bringing in all this gang stuff and so forth. That they undermined something that was supposed to be joyous, uplifting. So people like yourselves, people like Bobby and Dr. Blair, and all of the young brothers and sisters who are out there working towards upliftment, their lives are in danger too. So why should I, who actually helped put these young people on, what would it look like for me to back off and say that I got to retire at a time when I would be needed, just like my elders? I needed my elders around before they left, but they left me such a treasure.
Right.
They left me Midas's intellectual treasure, not the gold, but the intellectual treasure, almost like a Midas,
Hmm.
uh, wealth. And I can't do anything different. If my life is taken doing what my joy, then I'm going to be smiling and laughing as I leave the body. I'm
Hmm.
not going to be afraid. I'm not
Beautiful.
going to be crying.
Beautiful.
You know.
Well, let's get a little bit of OG advice from you, Doc, to the younger brothers out there. Do you feel as though your wife, for all the brothers out there, do you feel as though your wife takes away some of the warrior spirit in you? And is that a good or a bad thing? Is that for the betterment of you?
Well, that's a
Or,
woman.
yeah.
That's your woman. She tapers and tempers your energy. She gives you a chance. when they talk about Sophia, the word
Mm-hmm.
Sophia is gravitates to the word wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So what a woman does by her questioning your actions is causing you to mine the wisdom for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
When they ask why you're doing this, do you know that you have these particular things that you, as the master, as the leader, as the head of the household, these are your other responsibilities. They're also to us. Have you
Mm-hmm.
taken that into consideration? And so I
Mm-hmm.
would say to her, beloved, when you joined me on this mission and on this path, did you know what the circumstances and consequences could be?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot, my wife had to get to that because she's very feminine, I turned her into this warrior energy,
Right.
because I could not get a swear word out of her mouth.
Oh man.
She doesn't swear, she doesn't do all of this. I mean, she's like super feminine. And in
Mm-hmm.
that super femininity, it calmed my beast.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think twice about my other responsibilities, but I had to tell them I cannot be who I am not, or who not, and my double negative. I'm saying you cannot make me not be me, because I'm going to simmer. I'll be very hard to live with, you see, and you don't want me in a cantankerous, argumentative mood consistently when I could channel that into my book. I could channel that into problem solving for my people. And that's the beauty. You are a spark. You are that platform that allows people like myself and all the other brothers that you had at the beginning of the show with that incredible opening. All of them are, there's too many of us warriors. When one
Mm-hmm.
goes down, two is going to take its place. So
Indeed.
why should I worry about this shell? I have
Mm-hmm.
over 300 videos circling the planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
300.
Mm-hmm.
And I have them coming from different parts of the world that I didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
What is that worth?
Mm-hmm.
If I had to do it all over again, beloved, I better ask me, would you do it again? Yep, damn sure would be. But where do I
Mm-hmm.
start? I'm
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Wow. It's interesting, Doc. You mentioned some of the speakers that I had in the beginning, the brothers. You mentioned the brothers and the warriors in the beginning.
Right.
If I look at all the brothers that's in the beginning, and this is
Mhm.
very interesting, including yourself. Doc is a musician. Dr. Phil Valentine is a musician. Brother
Right.
Rich is a musician, music
Yes.
producer. Dr.
Yes.
B. Serious is a musician,
Yes.
music producer. Red and Blue Pill are musicians, poets, rappers, etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Seven Beaumont is a musician, music
Mm.
producer.
There you go.
Who else I had on there? Pretty much what I'm trying to say. I was just talking to a brother named Yaki yesterday. He was
Hmm.
telling me how his first passion before getting into this music, getting into this information was music. He was a rapper.
Right.
Pretty much everybody I know that's in this information, first love was music. And they
Right.
sacrificed music to get into this information. And this is going to lead
Mhm.
me somewhere, Doc.
Yeah.
Michi Akaku. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Michio Kaku.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he talks on the internet about string theory. And he said when he talks about string theory, the universe is composed of these tiny little strings, what we call, I think, the electrons, or I hope I'm getting the name right, but they're
Yeah.
really tiny little strings, like a
Hmm.
guitar string, vibrating musical notes.
Yeah.
So he was talking about how the music is this cosmic symphony. Now I'm
Yeah.
thinking about him talking about the music is the universe, and you talked about this before, being a
Mhm.
cosmic symphony. And I'm thinking about everybody I know conscious, first love was music. Talk to me about string theory, music, and how we just naturally gravitate to be music artists. Because it's very interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, what they speak about is the fact that the string theory is that vibrational tones start out, let me just go back to the mind of the
Yes,
creator
yes,
emanates
yes,
outward. And
yes.
that emanation is what we call the will, the universal will. As the will is, I guess, further from source, it begins to slow down and attenuate and what is willed becomes manifest.
Mm-hmm.
That manifestation happens in the form of what they call strings. This is quantum physics actually trying to take musical notes and the flow of the waves of life, and then attenuating it into these fibers,
Mm-hmm.
these etheric fibers that they call the strings from the string. And remember, it's a theory, it's not actually something that is real.
Mm-hmm.
What they're trying to do is deal with metaphysics and put it into their own language so that they can actually own that particular scenario about what creation and what life really is. It's not what they think it is. It is a movement in the way that divine will, manifests itself through the individual components that constitute the one thing manifesting as the many. So the manifestation of the many happens along strings of consciousness where you are conscious at the level of consciousness based upon what the will or how you react, how your spark reacts to divine will. So,
Mm-hmm.
divine will with you, for example, would have a certain resonance towards something that you feel you must accomplish. And that essentially was a contract or something that your spark was based in happening. And everything is nothing more than experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everything boils down to experience. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if it's murder, if it's suicide, whatever it is that you choose to do with your avatar, and what you do with the consciousness that motivates that avatar is temporal, and it is essentially choice, and it is nothing more than an experience. It boils down to that. What we do while we're in the avatar is to elaborate upon our own individual and collective perception of what those strings are, individual strings are doing within us. And some of us resonate to certain strings where we collaborate and we become tribes, we become nations, we become man and wife, and so forth. And these have to do with the way that these strings and what we call strings, but what I call them are divine intentions.
Mm-hmm.
These intentions are essentially what exists to manifest themselves so that the experience may become the feedback mechanism for the creator. So when they start talking about string theory, these quantum physicists essentially look at life as it's manifesting itself towards an effect. They never go back to cause. They
Right.
just tell you, well, Big Bang. All right, so if nothing existed, where did everything come from? So they say nothing was there, and all of a sudden, boom, everything was there. Nothing or something cannot come out of nothing. Everything pre existed. And that's why they can't figure out what the so called aspect of universal intelligence and God really is. Cosmic and so-called what do you call it? Science, quantum
Mm.
science is only dealing with what it can see. It never goes back to a creative source. They block any reference to an intelligent source. Everything just comes out of nowhere. And that way they want to be the God that essentially is the one that dictates what reality is.
Mm.
But we already have that encoded in us if we just stop getting caught up in all the beautiful colors and every little thing we look under the microscope and see. Everything has to be conquered. Everything must be known in the physical. But they don't understand it. All they have to do is to be still and know that I am. They don't know
In-
that.
Indeed. You know who Terrence Howard is, right?
I love Terrence Howard. Me and him going to have to get together one day.
Man, if you ever talk to the brother, please tell the brother. There's a brother named Brother Rich who want him on the show.
No doubt.
I need to
No
get.
doubt.
But the brother, he for the last couple of years, 5, 6 years, he's been going around the universities to the scientists, and he's been dealing with physics, and he's been saying
Flower of
how
life.
the, huh?
The flower of life.
Yeah, he's been dealing with the five flower of life,
Right.
and he's been dealing with this mathematical equation where he's telling everybody about one times. It's impossible for one times one to equals one because to multiply means to be that's like
Outside.
yeah, so how can if you're multiplying something, how can something stay the same if you're multiplying on something? So
Right.
he's saying it's impossible. It's a mathematical lie to say one times one equals one. What's your
Exactly.
thoughts on him saying that the system that we have? Because everybody say the universe is mathematics. But if the
Right.
universe is mathematics, but if our mathematics is based on lies and we base our numerology and everything else on our mathematics, you gotta talk to me, Doc. What's your
It's not
thought?
mathematics. It's not mathematics. It's mathematics to them, but to us, it's ma'at hemetics.
Okay.
It's not mathematics. Mathematics is a kind of twisted perception of ma'at hermetics.
Mm.
Ma'at is balance. It is
Yes.
the finding the equilibrium between two forces.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Hermetics is the secret behind that force.
Uh-huh.
So I changed the whole dynamic for my students. It's not mathematics. It's ma'at hermetics.
My
And when
hermetics.
you're dealing with numerological aspects of the creator, then you're dealing in the illusory aspect of the one. It
Mm-hmm.
is the one in the dream of itself. And the one is in my book, I have the dream of chaos. I think it's the dream of chaos is order. The nightmare of order is chaos. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
The dream of chaos is order. The nightmare of order is chaos. So it's the same thing. We believe that one thing can become many because we are in that particular societal framework, or what we call consciousness framework, where we live in duality. We live on third density, height, depth, length, width, and so forth. And that becomes an external part of our brain. Our brain is actually locking all that we see into the order that you see here today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually an illusion that the brain creates in order for it to exist in the particular envelope of consciousness that we presently occupy.
Mm-hmm.
So once we leave the body, there is no such construction around that particular phase of our existence. So when you're dealing with mathematics, you're dealing with the way that the conscious intelligence that expresses itself begins to enumerate. Number has nothing to do with what we see as the multiplication, division, or subtraction, or addition of things. Numbers are consciousness, specific consciousness.
Mm.
And numbers have a specific place within the numerical existence that we're dealing with, which is 1 to 9. There are no other numbers than 9. There are only
Mm-hmm.
9 numbers. Anything after 9 is a kind of extraction process from the invisible into the visible. So you see, when they talk with the number 1, it starts with zero first and then 1. But then you go all the way to 9, and then the 1, I mean the 0, succeeds the 1. Where it
Right.
precedes the 1, it succeeds the 1, which means it's the same. So what you're dealing with on the first levels of condensation, because there's no such thing as creation. That's a misnomer.
Is
Because as
subtraction.
you said, exactly, nothing goes outside of the creator. There's nothing outside of the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is within the creator. So the 1 to 9 is a subtraction or a retraction process.
Mm-hmm.
That's that 1/10 that they talk about that we exist in, that the brain exists in.
Mm-hmm.
So mathematics can go on to infinity. And when you're looking at infinity, that's where mathematics come in. But when you're dealing with life and consciousness, then you're dealing with eternity. So
Okay.
one is masculine, the eternity, and one is feminine, infinity.
Mm-hmm.
So infinity is a numerical progression that goes on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Eternity is within the sphere. It's the sphere within which this particular mathematical process for existence exists.
Mhm. I asked this question Billy once, and I want to get your answer. I asked it to Billy Carson. I want to get your answer because you just talked about the brain creating this illusionary realm that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
And so, if the brain is creating this illusionary realm that I'm experiencing, and my eyes are, it's the only part of the brain that we can see. It's an extension of the brain.
Hmm.
My question to you would be: once the spirit leaves this body, I don't have the brain and I don't have the eyes no more. How can I view, let's say my son, let's say my woman, if they were only part of that avatar experience with the brain and the eyes?
Beautiful.
My brain created them. I don't have the
Mhm.
brain no more. How can I observe them without that part of the avatar?
Residual ectoplasmic material.
What does that mean, Doc? What does that mean? Come on, break this down. This getting good. Come on, Doc. This is getting good.
Everything that exists has an auric field.
Yes.
And that auric field is your template, your physiology, and so forth. And depending on how strongly or how intensely you are connected to the physical, a specific template of that, an auric field can be seen of you. In other words, the eyes of the innocent can see you even after you've left the body because there's an ectoplasmic image of you that it eventually dissipates, of course, much like you see in the morning, you see dew, but after a while, when the sun comes up, it then dissipates. But your strong intention, for instance, when you pass away, you are seeing the sadness of the people who are lamenting your passing. Your intention, but from the physical memory that you've had of the aura, is there saying, I don't want to hurt these people. I want
Right.
to let them know I'm still here. I'm good. And so your intention to stay, little children have seen. I saw my grandmother
Wow.
when she passed.
Mhm.
I was at night, I was sleeping. I had to go to the bathroom. I got up and I went to the bathroom and the door wouldn't open.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at the door, and then there was a little crack in the door because the house was, old house,
Mhm.
and there's a little crack, and then you could peek in there to see if anybody's in there.
Mhm.
I saw my grandmother sitting on the toilet, and I said, "Oh wow, grandma's on the toilet," and I'm over here, beating her. Oh, and I went over to my mother. I felt in the thing, went to my mother and father's room, and I went to my mother. I said, Mom, I got to go to the bathroom." And she said, "I got to go." She said, "Oh, well, go ahead." I said, "Well, grandma's in there."
Ooh.
And she said, "What? Grandma's in there?" I
Ooh.
said, "Yeah, grandma. She's got the door locked. Grandma's in there." She went over there and opened the door where I couldn't open the door. The
Mhm.
light was on. She went over there, the light was off.
Wow.
A month later, we found out that she was in a coma
Mhm.
and passed. And she had come before she made that transition to see me because I was somebody. She used to call me Pip. She used to take
Mhm.
the end of my name, Phil, Philip. She shrunk all the rest of them and called me Pip. When I went to Trinidad with my mother to see her, she was the matriarch, and of course she had 15 children. There must have been 80 of cousins. We were running all around the house,
Right.
and she was having dementia. And when I went there, and I'm running around with my cousins, acting the fool. I must have been about 13 or 14, and everybody would go up to her while she was sitting there. And of course, one of my aunts was there to whisper in her ear, "Here's this is who it is. This is Felix. This is Vince. This is Teddy. This is so forth." And my mother came up to me after in the yard. We was rumping and so forth. She said, "Come on, you have to come and say hello to your nana now." So I went up to see it. My sister went up there first, and she went and hugged her. And my grandmother never moved. She just looked straight ahead.
Mm.
That's all she did.
Mm.
But when I came up to her and I went up there and I said, "Hey, Nana," and and my mother said, "No, Mama, it's Pip." All of a sudden, she said, "Pip,"
Mm.
and the whole room. stopped, and I'm lying. I'm not lying. The whole room stopped and looked because she never talked. And she said, Philip Pip Pip? And I said, yeah. And I thought it was a big deal, because she used to always call me that. And I said, hey, Nana, how you doing? Everything is well, How you doing? And she's saying, you're being a good boy, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I'm saying, yeah, Nana. She said, come give me a kiss. And I used to love her because when I was a little boy, she had these humongous boobs that I used to just nestle and just go to sleep on. After I left and said my hellos, she went right back into it.
Mm.
That's my story, and I know it happened. My sister can bear it out. My mother, bless her soul, she went for the afterlife as well. But I know what it was. I know what happened, and I know what I saw that night when I tried to get into the bathroom and I could not open that door. The light was on, and I saw my grandmother sitting there on the toilet with her hands in her, what do you call it? And that was me. I said, I said, no, there's definitely the soul can send itself to different places, and people have already claimed that right before someone has passed, or right when they did pass, they saw or heard from, or they saw their people, and they were talking directly to them. That's your ectoplasmic residual consciousness, and if it's strong enough, and your will is strong enough, people who have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the heart to feel will see you.
Man, see, this is why I tell y'all, yeah, this is why I tell
And be prepared because the who, what, when, where, and why that you see on that flyer is
yeah,
going to be exposed. The way that Cat Williams is exposing everybody today,
yeah.
and the courage it takes. Look at his life was almost taken a number of times, and look at the fact that Oprah is putting a hit out on him. Look at all of the people who are now crying the Moody Blues because this man is kept righteous, didn't bend over for anybody, and now because they are calling him all kind of names and doing all the things that they did to undermine people, all of the people that you had all loved and everybody that you thought was the kings and they did all the nah, it ain't like that. And so the people that are up in the political spheres, in the churches, in the mosques, and in all these places who are pretending, all of them who are pretending to help humanity, they're not. They're all for
Mm.
themselves. And the banking industry, everything that's getting ready to happen, make sure you know what you're going to do with your money. All of this is going to be discussed in that webinar.
Let me ask you this, Doc. Since we're talking
Mhm.
about Hollywood, I mean Hollywood. I mean these people in Hollywood. Oprah, you name Oprah. When I think of Oprah, now when I think of Oprah, I automatically think of Harvey Weinstein. They're
There you
like
go.
connect. They're like connected to me.
Oh
And
yeah.
and what I want to ask you, and I want to tie Hollywood with your metaphysical studies, and I love doing that because people could understand it better because
Right.
they can relate to Hollywood. They've seen it their whole life on television.
Right.
So we have Hollywood, and we have these people that are notorious for lying, Doc. They get
Right.
on camera and they lie to us about who they are, what about Hollywood, about everything. They just lie. So
Yeah.
my question to you would be, being a metaphysician, yourself and many others on my platform, talk about the power of the imagination. My question would be, Doc, are liars more tapped in to their imagination than truth tellers? Because truth tellers observe, you talk about the cause and effect, truth tellers observe the physical to come up with a
Hmm.
conclusion. Liars tapping into some shit that ain't happened. They make it up. They just create some shit on the spot. This could have happened. I could have went left. They'll say, oh, I went right this way. That they'll just make some shit up. My question, are liars, and we seeing these liars be successful in terms of finances. So, Doc, are liars more tapped in this into this imagination than people who observe the physical to tell the truth, Doc?
Well, let's not say that they're more tapped into the invisible. Let's just call them more cunning.
Cunning. Wow.
Cunning.
Interesting.
Why they study human nature,
Yes.
and they take it they take advantage of the vulnerabilities of the human spirit, the human heart, as well as the human passions and all the types of uh, what would I call it? Let's just say that they have weaknesses and addictions. And
Mm-hmm.
if you were to read some of the old materials, you would see that what they did was they elevated human weakness
Mm-hmm.
to a science.
Yes.
And what they did was they knew how people would react. That's what psychology is about, or psychiatry is about, not psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Psychology is the study of how people think and what motivates thinking. Psychiatry is controlling thinking, you see. So
Yes.
psychiatry
That's
is
deep.
not
That's
a
deep.
real science.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It's a means of control. So liars, as you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
liars are not tapped into anything but what their own selfish way of utilizing free will.
Mm-hmm.
Liars understand that free will can give you anything that you put out there because every human is a creator.
Mm-hmm.
They understand that. So if you're a creator, you can create any reality you want and then put it out there like a merchant
Mm.
sale. And that's what they do. It's called, one of the sciences that I will teach is called synthetic synchronicity. This is the most sophisticated form of lying because they set the modem, they set the direction for the lie, they give you the substance necessary to support the lie, and it's even to a point where we call it predictive programming, where I can tell you this is what's going on. And then because you believe just that first point, I can then set up a synchronistic pattern where every time you look for evidence of whether I'm right or wrong, the pattern has already been set in place to substantiate what I said as a lie in the beginning.
Whoo.
So, in that
Whoo.
synchronistic format, you're going to fall into every piece of evidence, and that's how they play you on the news. The news is synthetic synchronicity.
Synthetic synchronicity.
That's what I call it.
Love it.
It's
Love it.
an artificial way of getting you to marginalize your attention, your
Yeah.
perception, and your consciousness towards an end that they already have predicted, that they
Right.
already set in place. It's the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. So a liar is not anyone that is tapping into any real spirit. They have to be more imaginative because they have to compound all the necessary materials that go to substantiate their lies. But they have to keep jumping from one foot to the other because a lie always lies on the liar.
Mm. Mm.
And they will always lie on the liar and then tell the truth because the lie that the liar puts out there comes up against the universal truth. And who gonna win then? So liars have to do it. But then when you lie long enough, like this society and this Europeans paradigm, when you lie long enough, and the people begin to see that the lie is beginning to become threadbare and falling apart like a cheap sweater, that lie cannot exist. Just like evil cannot exist, it cannot exist very long. It begins to wane. It begins to eat on itself like a cancer. A lie is like a cancer. It begins to eat on itself. And all they do, people who are liars, good ones, is they keep patching up the holes, keep patching up all the bruises that that lie has created. And so you have people who lie, like you see the government right now. Everything is falling down now. You can't lie to anybody anymore. I've never lied to the people because I know what a lie does. It comes back on the liar. Look at what the lies have done that Cat came out. Cat is just simply the person who opened up the door and pulled the curtain aside.
Indeed.
The
Indeed.
liars, they convicted and indicted themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so if the judge says to the bailiff, "Could you read the charges?" Who's the one who did it? Who put the charges? Who caused the bailiff to have to read the charges before the judge? The liar. And the liar going to end up coming before the judge pretty soon. I'm not talking about no Jesus Christ. I'm talking about himself.
Doc, if these people take a little bit, they take the truth and they bend it and they twist it to hurt us and to our disadvantage,
right?
should we take the truth, bend it and twist it to our advantage?
Well,
They take the truth and they, you know, they may take the concept of the law of attraction and they're bended and twisted and put a white man in front of it and they say, if you pray to this man, then you'll get what you want. Yeah, you could get what you want, but you don't have to pray to that white man. Should we do the same, but to benefit our people?
no, you get no. You can't use the tactics of the evil one,
Okay, okay.
because what that will do is just bring the evil in to substantiate what you're doing, because you're
Mm.
using that power as your means to broadcast or to forward your message. No, let
Indeed.
your message be pure.
Yes.
Let your message be clear, because that will cut through all the bullshit that they tried to do to cover their own asses.
Hmm.
It's not going to work, and you have to remove yourself from the truth and trying to over substantiate it. The truth doesn't need that much help.
Right.
You don't need to actually sit the truth up and then get your guns out and start shooting at everything that you believe is wrong. The truth will stand for itself. They say the truth crushed to earth shall always rise.
Hmm.
So when you remove yourself from the consequences of evil, when you remove yourself and know that everything balances itself in the end and that you're in the middle of the crucible that's going to bring the truth to light, all you say is, I just take 500 milligrams of fuck it all.
Woo! Fuck it all, Doc. Doc is
And
raw. Yes, all right.
and then
Yes,
say,
sir.
okay, I'll tell you what, you come to me and tell me what your immediate problem is, your individual problem is, because I do counseling that way. And I
Right.
will tell you what it is that you have done to actually get in your own way,
Indeed.
you see.
Wow. So Doc, one thing also, and for the people asking in the chat, the link to the webinar is now pinned at the top of the chat. So
Mhm.
it's in the description and it's pinned at the top of the chat. So I advise everybody, if you didn't make the first one, sign up to Doc's webinar. The brother just said it's going to be 11 and a half hours. The link to sign up is at the pinned at the top of this chat, family.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
And so Doc, wonderful conversation we're having as always. I always have a wonderful conversation with you, my brother. Another thing that
You're easy to talk to, beloved. You are
I
so easy to talk to. You have no
pre-
idea.
appreciate it, my brother. One thing I know a lot of us. You mentioned Cat Williams,
Yeah.
and he talked about the Hollywood. He also talked about drugs in Hollywood briefly. One of the drugs that is very popular in this country is alcohol. Now, in
Right.
the spiritual community, Doc, they say alcohol. Another name for alcohol is spirits. And when you drink alcohol and you get drunk, you could black out, and a spirit could take over your body,
Right.
possess you.
Yeah.
My question to you, Doc, is one thing that a lot of people do once they drink and they have and they engage with alcohol, they have sex, Doc. So my
Yeah.
question to you, Doc, is once a person gets drunk, say they get so drunk they black out. The lady he's with, she gets drunk, she's black out. They engage in sex, she gets pregnant. Now, is
Right.
the child that is born, does it have the energy of the spirit that possessed that man? That
Wow.
that child that is born, or is
Yeah.
that child the spirit of the original host of that avatar?
That's the thing that happens with people who don't understand what, say, ayahuasca is, what the
Yeah,
mushroom plant is, what alcohol or what they call the spirits really are.
yeah.
The spirits were actually to use to cleanse the environment, not to be drank. If you want a walk-in, if you're practicing, say,
Hmm.
contemplai or one of those, and there is a particular spirit based upon a particular thought or action that the spirit represents, then what happens is your body, you have to diminish your consciousness for the spirit to enter into the body. You have to take it, you have to take yourself out of the equation. And that's why they say that a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts.
Woo.
So when you're dealing with the spirit from alcohol, you are removing yourself from the man, the sober man.
Mm-hmm.
and you're going into the truth teller,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the one who does not hold his tongue,
Mm-hmm.
and you get more information out that the person who would be more discreet, the sober man is more discreet with his words, he's more discreet with his actions. The drunk man is not. So that using the alcohol for that reason is the only reason, because then you have the people around him or her to protect that entity that comes in to speak the truth.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
Okay.
these people take, they took it and they used it. Now the European man needed the alcohol because the alcohol was the way that he was able to convert uh, what they call iron, ferrous iron, into heme iron. And the alcohol was necessary. If you look at any of your movies in
They're
Hollywood,
drinking. They're drinking all
they're
day.
drinking constantly.
All
The
day.
reason for that is because they could not convert the iron in their body to process and conduct oxygen throughout the system without that alcohol changing or helping to change the heme iron, change the ferrous iron into heme iron, which is iron that can now join with the hemoglobin to conduct oxygen throughout the system. The European need that. But because your melanin is dark, you didn't need that. And what happened was he gave that poison to the native peoples whose systems were so pure, all they had to do was take a damn sip and they were out.
Okay.
Whereas these Europeans could drink back and kick back and drink all kinds of it. But today, because we've now taken on their culture, we are just as crazy and as stupid as they are, because what it is we are not inviting the spirit that is there to actually help raise the tribe or to raise the community in that ritual, but to actually enjoy and taking in whatever spirit is around them at that time. And it could be some kind of demonic shit that people don't even know is there. That's why people end up killing people while they're drunk, while they're driving, they drink, they kill people. No, any of these, what they call psychotropics, were always used as a way, it was like a messenger service.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a way for you to get the mail from the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the people would then speak in these particular frames of mind. They would call them, they were possessed of the
Mm-hmm.
spirit, and they would call the spirit Gemaya, or they was called the spirit Obatala. They would call the spirit that was necessary during specific seasons were also called upon.
Mm-hmm.
So that during a specific season, they knew a particular resonance of the planet would be giving off certain information that certain people would be sensitive to, and then they would then filter that information in that state of mind so that the tribe may benefit from that knowledge.
Doc, what do you think about using alcohol to for libation purposes to call on spirits? A lot of people, one of the more popular people who did it amongst our community was Bobby Hemmett. You take
Yes.
alcohol and in the hood, brothers do it all the time. Pour out a
Yeah,
little liquor for so and
yeah.
so. We do it's like it almost like we just do it without knowing what we're doing. So what's your thoughts on that
That's
ritual
a
that we do?
throwback. It's a muscle memory
Muscle
from
man,
our
okay.
culture.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, we have in the mitochondria of our black woman who
Mm-hmm.
holds the library of all life on planet Earth or
Mm-hmm.
plain Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You the information that filters through her is
Mm-hmm.
in the mitochondria,
Mm-hmm.
and the mitochondria becomes the receptor. It becomes the receptor to the akasha. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there are different ways that human experiences are logged into a library of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's locked into the feminine principle on the material realm in the female mitochondria, but it's also locked into the waters above and the waters below.
Mm-hmm.
the memory of fish and their experiences with man, but the memory of man as an energy that you create in the form of templates of consciousness that essentially are like sigils. They're like memory patterns that are digitalized into a kind of hieroglyphics that you can tap into. So when they showed you when the Japanese what is his name or Moto his name,
Um, I know you're talking about. I
you know what I'm
forget.
talking about,
Yeah.
he showed that water has memory. So the first thing I thought about was water has memory, then what is the Akasha?
Mm.
If it's not the memory of all human thought and human actions, human passions, it's water. And
Yes.
it is actually holding on to all of the experiences of humanity. And that's what these bastards in the AI are tapping into, the Akashic records. That's why
What?
they can predict what's happening 10, 20 years from now, because all life is a cycle that revisits itself on different patterns of expression.
If water's memory, Doc, let's say you visit the North Pole or somewhere that has been frozen for such a long time, Doc. Let's say you take a chunk of ice from there, Doc, because they got all these water machines popping out that could take
Right.
water from this, take water from that. Let's say you took a chunk of ice that was frozen for millions of years or something, and you filtered it out and you drunk it. Would you
Yeah.
have access? Is that
Yes.
like accessing the Akashic records by doing that,
That's
Doc?
why the Japanese are so far ahead in their technology.
Woo!
Why?
Okay.
Because everybody was laughing at them when they were actually toting
Mhm.
whole icebergs back to Japan.
What? They was doing that, Doc?
They was doing
Doc, get
that.
out of
And I
here.
was
Come
telling
on.
people,
Doc, well, hold on.
yeah,
Hold on.